So one of the most asked questions we get, especially on the cooking videos, is what is the best way to prepare a steak? Or what is the best marinade for a steak? Well, marinades, I use them, I like them, but a lot of times a marinade is to maybe make the meat taste a little bit different than it really does, if you know what I mean. Maybe cover up a gamey taste. And so a lot of times on elk and deer and antelope, I don't use marinades because I like the taste of wild game. But if you do, and I did marinate this steak just a little bit, but my favorite one is just about a half a cup of soy sauce, a half a cup of Worcester sauce, and then about a cup of water and a little bit of Lowry's seasoning salt. And really you only need to marinate it for about an hour at the most. If you want the marinade to really soak in throughout the whole meat, maybe go like 2 to 3 hours. But this steak I did here was I marinated for maybe a half an hour. And so it's gonna give it a little bit better taste, but this steak's gonna be good anyways because it's actually an elk backstrap, which is by far some of the best meat there is. One of my favorite ways to cook a steak is outside on the grill, on one of my Camp Chef grills with the grill box is a great way. But I think one way to really keep the juices and the flavor in a steak is to actually cook it inside on your oven top. And I always use a cast iron pan. And there's many reasons to use a cast iron pan, obviously. If you guys don't know, there's a lot of health benefits. If you cook food in a cast iron pan or any cast iron dish for that matter, your food will retain some of the iron, which is good. Most people are iron deficient, if you didn't know that. So that's one way. Plus they're super easy cleanup. You never are supposed to use soap to clean out your cast iron. Just use some warm water and a brush and scrub it really good, and then season it. Plus you don't have to use nearly the amount of oil using cast iron as you would like a non-stick pan. If you have your cast iron pan seasoned right and you keep seasoning it every time you use it, then you barely need really any oil. A lot of people like to use the non-stick pans, the new non-stick pans. Well, guess what? Non-stick pans, that they were made with chemicals to make it so it doesn't stick, which, you know, you never want to put chemicals in your body. So another reason I use the cast iron. But really I just like the taste, the flavor of the food that comes off of any cast iron dish. What we're gonna do is just turn the heat on our oven. We're gonna add just a little bit of oil. Like I said before, you don't need a lot. And then we're gonna let that get warm. But what you're trying to do inside when you cook a steak is what they call searing. You're gonna sear each side. So you're really gonna cook each side really hot and fast. That's what you want to do. And it almost creates a crust on each side, and that allows those moistures and the flavors to stay inside the steak. Compared to a grill where you kind of cook it slower and at a lower temperature. And a lot of the times you've noticed when you're cooking on a grill, a lot of the juices escape. So when we sear a steak, we're going to want to really crust each side with quick and hot heat. All right, so our pan is heated up. We're just going to throw our steak on there, and this is the sound you want to hear. Just like that. As you can see, this steak is a pretty thin steak. So normally like on about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch thick steak, you know, that's a pretty thick steak. I would say a minute on each side would be great, and that will sear it and cook it, depending on how you want it cooked, how many times you'll have to flip it. But I'd say a minute on each side. You don't want to burn one side or the other, obviously. So, but on this steak, we're gonna go about 35 seconds. I just made that number up, but that sounds about right. And it's been about 35 seconds. So we're gonna flip this thing over. As you can see that texture it's put on that steak? That's seared. We're gonna flip that over and we're gonna do the same for about 35 more seconds. I'm gonna put a little more salt and pepper on this side. Now I'm a medium rare type of guy. I think anything over medium rare, really you're just cooking more flavor out of the steak. But depending on how you like your steak, you can tell without having to cut a steak open, you can tell where the temperature just by the feel. A spongy feel like that is telling you it's a rare. Once it starts getting a little more cooked, you know, it becomes a little more firm, but that's about a rare right there. Just a little more, maybe one more flip, and it will be right where I want my steak to be. The last thing I'm gonna do is add just 3 little slices of butter. That really flavors the steak up well. Plus, it will bring a lot of that flavor that's in the juices in the pan, and you can just douse the steak with it a little bit right before you take it off, and it gives it a really, really good flavor. All right, we just pulled the steak off. Let's cut into it and see how it looks. Perfect. That's right on the rare to medium rare side, just how I like it. But you can see how much flavor and juices are still in that steak. Look at that. Well, let's try it. Excelente. Perfect. I marinated it just the right amount of time. It doesn't have an overpowering soy or Worcester sauce, just a little bit, and the flavors inside of it are amazing. So I would recommend you guys go and get a cast iron pan. Get on campchef.com and order one. They're super cheap, and the great thing about cast iron, they will last a lifetime, and you can do anything with them. You can use them on top of the stove, you can use them in the oven, you can use them over an open fire, you can use them on your grill, anything. So they're very diverse, plus the meat, the food, anything you cook on it is absolutely amazing. Thanks guys, just super simple recipe. I wanted to show you guys. I get asked for that a lot, but I'm gonna eat the rest of this steak. It's bomb.